Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving deep into just one source,
Oh, cool.
The Way to Happiness.
Okay.
And it's a booklet outlining 21 precepts for a happier life.
Right.
But, before you go thinking, oh, this is just another self-help book, this one's a little different.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah, it's secular, and it really focuses on, practical actions you can take for well-being.
Interesting.
It even ties happiness to survival in a way that might surprise you.
Huh. I'm intrigued now.
Yeah.
So tell me about this connection between happiness and survival.
Whoa.
How does the book make that link?
It's actually right there in the opening lines.
Okay.
You get things like, your survival's important to me. And you also get stuff like, without survival, there is no happiness.
Wow, that's pretty direct.
Yeah.
It definitely sets a different tone than a lot of those, more kind of fluffy self-help books out there.
Absolutely. And it's less about those lofty ideals,
right.
and more about grounded, effective living.
It's almost like a practical manual for navigating a complicated world.
Yeah.
And I remember reading about this unique method it suggests,
Oh,
where you write your name on the cover, but also the name of someone you want to help.
oh, that's right.
What do you think about that?
It's like gifting the book with an extra layer of purpose.
Right. It implies that our happiness is somehow connected to the well-being of others,
Exactly.
which seems to be a pretty big theme in these precepts.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into some of these precepts then.
Okay, sounds good.
Precept 1, take care of yourself. Seems pretty straightforward at first,
Yeah.
but the way to happiness kind of takes a different approach.
In what way?
Well, it encourages you to actually insist that those around you adopt healthy habits.
Oh, wow.
And the reasoning is that their hygiene, their sleep, their diet, all of that is important for your survival and happiness.
That's a pretty unique perspective on self-care. It's not just about, pampering yourself.
Right.
It's about setting boundaries to protect your own well-being.
Absolutely.
But how would you even approach that in real life? It seems like that could cause some conflict.
Yeah, it definitely requires tact and, being careful with it.
Sure.
But what the book's trying to get at is that tolerating these detrimental behaviors from others actually harms you.
Oh, I see.
It's a call to prioritize your needs within your relationships.
So it's about taking care of yourself by addressing the things that are negatively impacting you.
Exactly. And then precept 2, be temperate.
Okay.
That kind of builds on this idea of protecting yourself.
I see.
But this time, it's all about the dangers of substance abuse.
Right. So how does the book approach this?
Well, it emphasizes how drugs and alcohol impact your perception.
Oh, yeah.
It's arguing that they make people unpredictable and even dangerous.
It makes sense. It's not just about your own personal health then.
Yeah.
But about keeping yourself safe from those who might be under the influence.
Exactly. It ties back to that whole survival aspect again.
Yeah.
Like precept 3, don't be promiscuous. That's probably going to spark some strong opinions.
Probably.
Basically, it advocates for sexual fidelity.
Okay.
And the argument is that promiscuity can lead to health risks and emotional turmoil.
I mean, that's definitely a topic that people have strong feelings about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the book even goes so far as to connect the decline of Buddhism in India to promiscuity.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of whether you agree with that conclusion or not, it definitely shows how the book links personal choices to much wider societal consequences.
For sure. Now, moving on a little bit. Precept 4 is love and help children.
Okay.
And it's all about the challenges of raising kids.
Right. The joys and the challenges.
Exactly. So what does it say about that?
Well, it emphasizes treating children as friends, for one thing.
Right.
Trying to understand their problems and guiding them towards self-reliance and also morality.
So it's about giving them the tools to thrive, not just survive.
Exactly. And then speaking of family relationships, we have precept 5.
Yeah.
Honor and help your parents.
And that one acknowledges that those relationships can be really challenging sometimes.
They can be.
So what advice does it give?
It encourages a few things.
Like
open communication, compromise, and really just recognizing all the sacrifices parents make.
It's a good reminder that even when those relationships are difficult, they're still valuable.
Absolutely.
And that they're worth the effort.
Yeah. Now, precept 6, set a good example.
Oh, that one's interesting.
It takes a more subtle approach.
How so?
Well, it basically says that by living these precepts, you are setting an example whether others acknowledge it or not.
Oh, I see.
It's that whole actions speak louder than words thing.
Right. You're living by your principles, and the book argues that even those who might, try to discourage you will still secretly respect that.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Now, precept 7, seek to live with the truth.
This one's a big one.
Yeah, this one gets a lot of attention in The Way to Happiness.
What are some of the key points it makes?
Well, it starts with this idea that false data leads to bad decisions.
Right.
And that ultimately impacts our survival.
Makes sense.
But then it kind of throws in this curveball.
Oh, what's up?
This, what is true is what is true for you.
That's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
It seems to be pointing to this idea that truth can be subjective.
Right.
It's about critical thinking and not just blindly accepting what you're told.
Right. It's about figuring things out for yourself.
Which can be really challenging in today's world.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much information out there, and it's hard to know what's true and what's not.
It feels like it puts a lot of responsibility on the individual.
Yeah.
To sort through all of that.
But I think that's kind of the point. It's challenging us to be active in shaping our own understanding of the world.
And it's not just about personal truth either.
Right.
The book also warns against harmful lies and, bearing false witness.
It argues that dishonesty really erodes trust.
Yeah.
Which can lead to all sorts of chaos.
So truthfulness is about more than just personal integrity.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a foundation for a stable society.
Now, moving on to precept 8, do not murder.
That's a pretty heavy topic.
It is. And the book actually makes a distinction between kill and murder.
Oh, how so?
It acknowledges that self-defense is a right,
Okay.
but condemns the unlawful taking of life.
It's a really complex issue, and the book doesn't shy away from the nuances.
Yeah. And then this whole idea of safety and order continues into precept 9.
Which is?
Don't do anything illegal.
Okay.
And that one emphasizes our responsibility to actually know the laws.
Even when they seem complex or unfair.
Right.
Yeah. It's not always easy.
No, but the book really stresses the importance of understanding the potential consequences of our actions.
How they can impact not just ourselves, but also those around us.
It's a reminder that we're all part of a larger system.
And then we come to precept 10, support a government designed and run for all the people.
Now, this one's interesting because it delves into the realm of politics.
Oh, yeah.
So what does it have to say about that?
Well, it argues that governments that only serve a select few or are ruled by dictators are inherently unstable.
Okay.
And they ultimately fail.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
Does it offer any advice on what we can do about that?
It encourages us to speak out against those kinds of power abuses.
Right.
And to support governments that actually benefit all citizens.
So it's about being active participants in shaping our political system.
Exactly. And there's this one line in this precept that I find really powerful.
Which one?
It says, "It is after all the people who sweat and fight and bleed for their country, a government cannot bleed. It cannot even smile. It is just an idea men have. It is the individual person who is alive."
Wow. That's a powerful image.
Yeah, it really emphasizes the power and responsibility of individuals within a society.
Absolutely. And that leads us to precept 11, do not harm a person of goodwill.
Now, who are these people of goodwill?
That's a good question. The book defines them as those everyday heroes who keep society functioning. Public servants, community leaders, anyone who works honestly and ethically.
So the people who are kind of the backbone of a functioning society.
Exactly. And the book argues that these individuals are often vulnerable.
Vulnerable? How?
Well, precisely because of their decency.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're not out for themselves, so they can be taken advantage of.
Right.
And the book stresses that protecting them is crucial for everyone's well-being.
So it's about recognizing and supporting the people who are making the world a better place.
Absolutely. And then precept 12, safeguard and improve your environment, expands on this idea of contributing to a better world.
How so?
Well, it goes beyond just typical environmentalism.
Like recycling and things like that.
Right. It starts with this kind of unexpected idea that maintaining your own appearance is part of improving your environment.
That's interesting.
It's not just about vanity.
Okay.
It's about recognizing how your appearance impacts others.
So a well-kept appearance can actually boost morale, both for yourself and those around you. So it's not just about saving the rainforest.
Right.
It's about creating a more positive atmosphere in your immediate surroundings.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for the energy you bring into any space.
I like that.
Yeah.
And this idea extends to caring for your possessions and your personal space, too.
Right. The book connects this to a sense of ownership and belonging.
Okay.
Because when people feel disconnected from their environment, they're less likely to take care of it.
So there's a link between respecting your surroundings and respecting yourself.
Exactly. And then the book brings in the idea of vandalism.
Oh, how does that fit in?
It uses it as an extreme example of what can happen when that sense of ownership is absent.
Oh, I see.
It's a form of lashing out, expressing frustration and alienation.
It's like saying, if I don't feel like I belong here, then I don't care what happens to this place.
Exactly. And then finally, this precept addresses taking care of the planet.
Okay.
The book argues that even events on the other side of the world can impact us.
Right.
It uses the example of Venus, which scientists believe was once habitable, but now is just this toxic wasteland.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
It is. So what does the 𝐬𝐞 suggest we do to avoid that kind of fate?
Well, it starts with small individual actions.
Like what?
Things like picking up litter, planting trees, supporting environmental organizations.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in safeguarding the planet.
Even those seemingly small actions can make a difference.
Absolutely. Now moving on, we have do not steal.
That one seems pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, but I bet the way to happiness goes a bit deeper than just the legal implications.
Oh, I'm sure it does. So what does it say?
Well, it argues that stealing erodes trust.
Right.
Which is really the foundation of any functioning society.
Yeah, because when people don't respect ownership, it creates a lot of uncertainty and fear.
Exactly. The book even goes so far as to say that stealing is an admission of inadequacy or insanity.
Wow. That's a pretty strong statement.
It is. It's suggesting that if you resort to stealing, you're essentially saying you're not capable of succeeding through honest means.
So stealing isn't just about taking an object.
Right.
It's about taking a shortcut that undermines the whole social fabric.
Exactly. And then that leads us to precept 14, be worthy of trust.
Okay.
This one's all about recognizing how important trustworthiness is in relationships.
Right. It's about being someone others can rely on.
Exactly. Someone whose word is their bond.
And the book is very clear on this point.
Yeah.
It says, keep your word once given.
It's about following through on your commitments.
Both big and small.
Right. And the language it uses is pretty striking.
Oh, how so?
It says, people who keep their word are trusted and admired. People who do not are regarded like garbage.
There's no sugarcoating there.
Nope.
It really emphasizes the importance of integrity and follow-through.
Absolutely. And then this theme of personal responsibility continues into precept 15.
Which is?
Fulfill your obligations.
Okay.
And this one argues that we all accumulate obligations throughout our lives.
To family, friends, society.
Right. Even to the world.
And failing to fulfill those obligations can lead to all sorts of problems.
Both personal and societal.
It's like accumulating debts that you can never pay back.
Exactly. And the book makes this really interesting connection.
Oh, what's that?
It links refusing to accept a child's attempts to repay obligations with teenage rebellion.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. The book suggests that if children feel like they can never pay back what they owe, they might just give up trying altogether.
So fulfilling obligations isn't just about keeping promises.
Right.
It's about empowering others to contribute and to feel valued.
Exactly. And then we have precept 16, be industrious.
This sounds like it's all about hard work and productivity.
It does emphasize the value of work even when it's not enjoyable.
Right. You're not always going to love what you do.
Nope. But the book argues that those who aren't industrious become burdens on others.
So it's about pulling your own weight and contributing to the common good.
Exactly. But it also goes beyond just working hard.
Oh, how so?
It connects industriousness to morale. It argues that accomplishment boosts morale, and that production is the basis of that.
I see.
So it's about recognizing the value of creating and contributing even in small ways.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in our actions.
Exactly. Now, precept 17, be competent. That one seems particularly relevant in today's world.
Yeah, with technology changing so quickly, it's hard to keep up sometimes.
Right. And the book emphasizes how important competence is in a world that's becoming more and more complex.
It argues that incompetence can be a real threat.
Yeah, not just to individuals,
Right.
but to whole societies.
So we need to be constantly learning and adapting.
Exactly. And to achieve competence, the book breaks it down into 3 key components:
Okay. Almost that.
observation, learning, and practice.
So first up, observation. What does it say about that?
It encourages us to trust our own perceptions.
Okay.
There's this line that says, look, see what you see, not what someone tells you that you see. What you observe is what you observe.
So it's about developing those critical thinking skills.
Exactly, and not blindly accepting what others tell you.
Being an active observer rather than just passively absorbing information.
Right. And then there's learning.
Okay. What's the book's take on that?
It's all about discerning true data from false data.
especially in this age of misinformation.
Absolutely. It encourages us to question everything and determine what's true based on our own experiences and understanding.
So being discerning and not just taking things at face value.
Exactly. And then the final component is practice.
Okay.
The book argues that knowledge is only valuable when it's applied.
You have to be able to put it into action.
Right. It has this great analogy.
What is it?
It compares it to movie stuntmen,
Oh, yeah.
saying that they get hurt if they don't practice.
That makes sense. So talent isn't necessarily innate.
Right.
It's something you cultivate through practice and effort.
Exactly. Now moving on to precept 18, respect the religious beliefs of others.
That one seems particularly relevant these days.
It does, with so much division in the world.
Right.
It's about fostering tolerance and understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how does the book approach this?
It acknowledges that religious beliefs can be a source of comfort and meaning for people.
Even if those beliefs are different from our own.
Exactly. It advocates for a live and let live approach.
So respecting the right of others to hold their own beliefs.
Right, without feeling threatened or compelled to convert them.
It's about recognizing the value of diversity and peaceful coexistence.
And that leads us to precept 19. Try not to do things to others that you would not like them to do to you.
That's the classic golden rule.
It is, but the book actually frames it in a slightly different way.
How so?
It talks about it in terms of self-interest.
Okay.
It argues that when we harm others, it often comes back to bite us.
What goes around comes around.
Exactly. And it's not just about guilt or shame.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences, and those consequences can ultimately affect our own well-being and survival.
So it's in our best interest to treat others well.
Exactly. And the book even suggests that this precept can be a useful tool. A tool for what? For figuring out what constitutes a harmful act.
Oh, I see.
If you wouldn't want something done to you, it's probably a harmful act to do to someone else.
That's a pretty simple but effective way to look at it.
And then we have precept 20, which is kind of the positive counterpart to that.
Which is?
Try to treat others as you would want them to treat you.
So taking the golden rule and putting it into action.
Exactly. The book even suggests that by thinking about how we want to be treated, we can actually figure out what the human virtues are.
So by imagining our ideal treatment, we can define what makes for a good society.
Right. And the book actually lists some of those virtues that emerge from this.
Like what?
Justice, loyalty, good sportsmanship, fairness, honesty, kindness, compassion, and more.
So it's like a blueprint for a better world.
Yeah, and it all starts with our own actions.
Now, what about the last precept?
Oh, right. Precept 21, flourish and prosper.
That sounds like the culmination of all the other precepts.
It is. It's the ultimate goal of living by these principles.
So what does it have to say?
Well, it acknowledges that we're going to encounter negativity in life.
Right.
People who try to bring us down, maybe out of fear that our success might threaten them somehow.
That makes sense.
But it encourages us to flourish and prosper anyway.
So don't let the haters get you down?
Exactly. The best way to overcome negativity is to keep growing and keep succeeding.
The best revenge is a life well lived.
Right. And the book ends with this powerful call to action, flourish and prosper.
It's a reminder that we have the power to create a life filled with meaning and purpose and joy.
Even in the face of challenges.
Exactly.
And that's a pretty powerful message.
It is.
So, as we're going through all this stuff,
Sure.
It's kind of striking how much the way to happiness emphasizes taking responsibility for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
As like a way to not just be happy, but to make the world better as a whole.
Yeah, it's not about waiting for someone else to come along and fix things.
Right.
It's about realizing that you can actually make a difference.
Yeah. Exactly. And that you have the power to shape your life and your community.
Yeah, and that's a theme that runs through all 21 of these precepts, right?
It does. It's really empowering in a way.
Yeah.
But it also kind of comes with this weight of responsibility.
Right. You can't just sit back and expect things to change on their own.
Exactly. The book doesn't just say, be better.
Right.
It actually gives you practical steps you can take to do that.
Yeah, it's like a toolbox filled with these unexpectedly relatable tools.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like, maintaining good hygiene,
Okay.
being temperate in your habits,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling your obligations.
Yeah, these aren't exactly revolutionary concepts.
No, not at all. But the way the book connects them to happiness and survival,
Right.
it just makes you rethink how important they really are.
Yeah, it's like it's challenging us to see how our actions have this ripple effect. How even those little choices we make every day can impact the people around us.
And contribute to a more stable society.
Exactly. And I think it encourages a level of self-awareness. that can be challenging, but also really liberating.
Right. It's about being present in those choices, understanding what they really mean and making sure they align with what you believe in.
Absolutely. And this idea of being aware also applies to how we engage with the systems around us. Like the book's stance on government.
Oh, yeah.
That feels especially relevant now with all the political division going on.
Definitely. So what does it say about that?
Well, it advocates for supporting governments that truly serve all people.
Okay.
But it also recognizes that people have the right to challenge unjust systems.
Right. So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. And there was this one line that really stood out to me.
Oh, what was it?
It said something like, a government can't bleed. It can't even smile. It's just an idea that men have. It's the individual person who's alive you.
Oh, yeah, that one was powerful. It reminds you that it's really individuals who create and sustain society.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our power within those systems.
Right. We're not just passive bystanders.
We can actually shape the direction of things.
And that idea of supporting those who make the world better goes beyond just politics too, right?
Oh, absolutely. The book encourages us to protect those people of goodwill.
The everyday heroes you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. The ones who keep things running smoothly through their honesty and hard work.
It's like recognizing the unsung backbone of society.
Yeah, appreciating those who quietly make a difference.
Even if they don't get a lot of recognition for it.
And this theme of support and encouragement runs through the whole book.
Yeah.
It encourages us to be worthy of trust, to fulfill our obligations,
to be industrious,
to develop our competence.
It's like it's saying, become the best version of yourself.
Right.
Not just for your own sake, but for the good of everyone.
Exactly. And I thought the book's discussion of truth was really interesting, too.
Oh, yeah, me too. What did you think about that?
Well, on one hand, it stresses how important it is to be honest and to avoid false data.
Okay.
But then it also kind of acknowledges that truth can be subjective.
With that line about what's true for you.
Exactly. It's a bit of a balancing act.
It is.
But I think it's encouraging us to be critical thinkers.
Right.
To not just blindly accept what we're told.
To figure things out for ourselves.
Right. Which can be tough these days.
Yeah, there's so much information coming at us from all directions.
Exactly. It can be overwhelming.
But the book seems to be saying that passive acceptance is not the answer.
Definitely. It's a call to action.
To be more discerning about the information we consume.
Yeah. And to engage in open dialogue with others.
To really try to understand different perspectives.
Exactly. And then when we move from that inner pursuit of truth to our interactions with other people, the book has some really interesting things to say about building healthy relationships.
It covers a lot of ground, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Everything from our responsibilities to our children and parents, to the importance of trust and reciprocity in our wider social circles.
So how does it approach all of that?
Well, it encourages us to be empathetic and compassionate, to treat each other with mutual respect.
To recognize that we're all in this together.
Exactly. And it doesn't shy away from the fact that relationships take work.
Especially those family relationships.
Oh, yeah. Those can be the toughest.
But I thought the book's take on repaying obligations within families was really insightful.
Oh, me too. What did you think about that?
Well, it suggests that letting kids contribute and feel valued can actually prevent them from rebelling later on.
Right. It's like acknowledging that even within families, there needs to be this sense of give and take.
Yeah, that reciprocity is important in all relationships.
Exactly. And then this idea of individual action contributing to the greater good.
Yeah.
It extends to our relationship with the environment, too.
Right. The book's call to safeguard and improve your environment.
It's not just about environmentalism in the traditional sense.
No, it connects it to this sense of personal responsibility and ownership.
Right. It's about recognizing that our actions impact not just our immediate space, but the entire planet.
And it starts with those small everyday things.
Yeah, picking up litter, planting a tree.
Supporting organizations that are working to protect the environment.
But ultimately, it's about a shift in our thinking.
Right.
Recognizing that we're all connected to the natural world.
And the book uses that example of Venus.
Oh, yeah.
To really drive that point home.
To show what can happen when we neglect that responsibility.
It's a powerful reminder that the future of our planet really is in our hands.
But it also offers hope.
Yeah.
That even small actions can make a difference.
It's not too late to change course.
And all of these ideas.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility, ethical conduct, awareness of truth.
Building strong relationships.
Caring for our environment.
It all comes together in that final message.
Flourish and prosper.
It's about more than just surviving. It's about thriving. Living a life filled with purpose and meaning.
And doing it in a way that benefits everyone?
The Way to Happiness really does offer a roadmap.
It does.
A set of tools and perspectives.
Yeah.
That can help us navigate this complex world.
And ultimately achieve that state of flourishing.
It's a good reminder that happiness isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we actively pursue.
It takes effort and awareness.
And a commitment to living in accordance with principles that uplift everyone.
Exactly. Now, you were saying earlier that you were struck by some of the specific language used in the book.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There were some really memorable lines that made me stop and think.
Like what?
Like that one about how the way to happiness doesn't include fear of being found out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It really stuck with me.
Why is that?
Well, it's saying be authentic.
Right.
You know, make choices you can actually stand behind.
Without worrying about what other people think?
Exactly. Without that fear of exposure.
Yeah, it's all about integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties into that other line, too.
You know, the one about...
People who keep their word are trusted and admired. People who do not are regarded like garbage.
Oh, yeah. That's a powerful one.
Right. It doesn't mess around when it comes to keeping promises.
Nope. It really highlights how important it is to be trustworthy.
Yeah, in any kind of relationship.
Personal, professional, societal.
It's the foundation.
And I thought that connection the book made.
Which one?
About refusing to let a child repay obligations.
Oh, yeah.
And how that can lead to teenage rebellion.
Right.
That was really insightful.
What did you take away from that?
Well, it shows how important balance and reciprocity are.
Even within families.
Yeah. It's like even kids need to feel like they're contributing.
And that their contributions are valued.
Exactly. It all goes back to that idea of personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a part to play in creating a harmonious society.
And that starts by recognizing how valuable each person's contribution is.
Absolutely. Now, another line that really got me thinking.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
That one about how what is true is what is true for you.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
It's like a constant reminder to be critical of the things you hear and see.
And to reflect on your own experiences and beliefs.
It's saying that seeking truth is important.
Yeah.
But we also need to acknowledge that everyone sees things a little differently.
It's about becoming active participants in shaping our worldview.
Right.
Not just passively accepting information without questioning it.
And then that final call to action, flourish and prosper.
Yeah.
I feel like that really sums up the whole message of the way to happiness.
How so?
Well, it's about more than just getting by.
Yeah.
It's about truly thriving.
Living a life that's full of purpose and meaning and joy.
And doing it in a way that benefits everyone.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
Yeah.
A reminder that we really do have the power to create a better world.
For ourselves and for future generations.
The Way to Happiness provides some really practical tools.
Yeah.
And a compelling vision for a better way of life.
It's definitely worth exploring.
I think so.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the way to happiness.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.